everybody get this, the information packet? No. Well, we just need the drivers of the cars to do it, actually. So 50 of them went out. There's some extra ones up here. Inside, this book is a nice color map. We'll show you how to get up to the Peterborough this afternoon. Essentially, we're going up Highway 28 outside the university here until we hit, those of you that have the book, you'll see Highway 6. So we're just going to make one turn off of Highway 28, onto 6, and up. You'll just see as you travel along 6, it says Peterborough Provincial Park. So we're just one turn out of the university, one turn out of 6. It'll probably be a 45-minute drive. What we suggest is that it would be nice for some people if we put air-conditioned cars, 5 people to a car, and they charge by the car to get in, not by the person. So it's about $4 or something like that. And after we've worked on some of the, maybe some of you want to go and try and see whether or not petroglyphs were placed according to energies in the environment, or if they weren't. When you get that out of your system, you might want to break into groups, and those of you that are interested in strictly maybe health and healing, or prospecting, or water diversion, team up with the different people here. There's Marcel here, who does some teaching of Dowsers in Toronto. What's your specialty, Marcel?
Well, I'm specialty. I'm interested mostly in health dowsing, health character, and health these things. And hot bits and things finding the general dowsing. Because living in Toronto, you don't have much use for water dowsing. You just open the tap.
Somebody was just asking a minute ago about someone that does more on health dowsing. Marcel, I think, is a good one. And he can also teach other people that are into it. So,
right on Highway 6, Bob, or are you going up there?
Right, yeah.
Right.
The other way you're going to go on.
Okay.
Yeah. If you don't have to, you have that one. Okay. Get on for the how many drivers are we going to need? About 12, 13 drivers. Use this map, and I think we'll get there. What we should do is behind this wall where it says exit, there's a semicircle in front of this big building over here. The bridge is over here, I believe, and the semicircle is out here. I got my green and white truck out here. Why don't we meet there at 1:15, and then we'll take off from there. I don't think we'll be in anybody's way. We should be able to, unless a bus comes, we should be able to park along that semicircle, wait for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and then take off. Those people that aren't on time, then they have a map, and they'll be able to get up there with just making those 2 turns that we mentioned. Does that sound fair? Would it be okay if we see at 1:15? And then you kind of work it out among yourselves, maybe have 5 people to a car.
What does the car fee when you enter there?
I think it's $4. Yeah. You mind if I mention one other thing about energy? I just wanted to mention one other aspect that fascinates me about, we're talking about the energy associated with water and whatnot. When I go into a home, I'm looking for 2 different types of energy. Natural, or non-technical energy, or man-made, which is technical. And it's possible to go to a site where you have, let's say, a situation where you have the water, going through the home, and then you have the crossing point. But in Canada, now more and more, all the new homes, you'll see the power box, the meter outside the house, and we're using now 10-foot grounds because you know how dry the soil is and everything. The grounds are going down 10 feet. And usually I can use this and pick up escaping voltage coming out from the ground wires, okay? So you're into a little bit different ballgame. You're not only into water that may be an irritation to some people. You're also into charged water mains. So you have the ancient natural energy, you have this new man-made overlay. And I like to use electronic instruments to pick up the man-made and use my body to pick up the other. One gentleman tonight will be showing you some of the natural energy machines that are starting to pick these up too. Anyway, this is just something for you to consider. When you're picking up these energies, are you picking up the overlay, are you picking up man-made, or are you picking up natural? When you put them both together, and some people seem to feel that say I've heard of a ley line, or whether I'm going to say that I want to stick for myself to the British definition of a ley line. Go back to the origins, because every American group I'm meeting from California, Arizona, everyone has gone and taken a beautiful idea from Britain and twisted it. And every group has now given the concept of ley line a new definition. And I think there's no way we're going to be able to talk with each other, even at this convention, unless we can kind of agree on common terms. Like it's even hard for Dowsers to agree on what Dowsers is. So what I want to do is, I just suggest going back to the man who kind of brought about the modern concept of a ley line, Alfred Watkins. And this is the concept that's used now by the Earth Mysteries Institute in Britain with Paul Devereaux. And I think the idea has been coming out of Britain, coming over here, and then people, each group has been taking it and twisting it around. So back to basics is, a ley line is an alignment of man-made sites. These are generally, we're talking about ancient sites. They are not necessarily dowsable. They can be found, in fact, they're pursued through the countryside by non-dowsers. Dowsers has nothing to do with ley lines. Some ley lines are found, like you might have, and the alignment of sites is on that sheet of paper I gave you. There's a ley line. You'll have this laser-perfect line maybe going through 5 different sites. Normally you'll find it with a ruler, a compass, and a military ordnance map in Britain. And people spend all their weekends hiking and being out in the countryside. These are all non-dowsers. Here you have a core, 1350 church, barrel, and a henge. All of these in laser-perfect alignment. Now, in some cases, people find something over these things called an energy line. But with the word ley line, let's see if we can keep it as clean as possible. It's strictly man-made, not made by nature. They're alignments with man-made sites. And then over these are sometimes things called energy lines, or some American groups now are trying to use the word DEL. Dowsable energy lines. Now in Canada, I think most Canadians are picking up and say, there's a ley line over there, and you say, okay, where are the maybe 5 alignments of sites, of man-made sites? And they'll say, well, there are none. There's a ley line there. So we're not communicating. So what they're talking about is an energy, and what I'm looking for, what I'm implying is, no one's ever found a ley line that I've met in Canada, and that I will chart it out on a map the way it's done in Britain. But you might have a chance to do that today. You may find 1 or 2 or 3 energy lines over the teaching rock, where we're going to be going at the petroglyphs. And if you were to find these lines, then I suggest you walk along one, when you can feel the edges of it, into the forest, and see if you can find another carbon, or something else that might indicate that these people that carved the rock were aware of these energies, and maybe did have an alignment. And I do know that we were shown about 8 years ago that there are other carvings that the public aren't told about. And you might stumble upon some of them, especially if you knew where the energy line was and you knew how to follow it. If there is one there.
Is it possible that these ancient people who either erected things along this ley line were creating a situation, or were they perhaps indicating an existing, slightly metaphysical situation that is maybe partly natural or partly just inherent in an inherent line of a pattern that was pre-existing?
That's a good question, because Tom Graves put out a couple of books on that, one called Needles of Stone. And he's suggesting in some ways these massive, 25-ton boulders that go 8 feet into the ground alongside of the energy line may be there to anchor energy. I mean, was the energy there and then the boulder brought in? Or was the boulder doing something to affect what's there? And especially these high crystal content boulders that are normally found in, let's say, on the west side of England, where we have a lot of tectonic movement also. In Britain, a book that's for a non-dowser, but for lay hunters, man-made site, is The Lay Hunter's Companion by Paul Devereaux. And it shows like 5 different sites to maybe a 2-mile stretch on the map, and lay tribe, and the tribes around here generally had 4, and they specialized, just like the diviners today specialize. Did the diviners go in and pick out this particular rock? And if they did, you should be able to get quite a kick off it. If not, then if you get nothing out of it, then maybe it was just randomly chosen. I don't like some of the attitudes of geologists who think that pyramids or temples in South America, everything, they imply they're random. So maybe if you can feel something on these sites, you can prove to yourself they are or they aren't. If you're interested in pursuing more on lake hunting or earth mysteries, this book by Paul Devereaux comes out every 4 months. It really keeps you up to date on all the latest books and everything you can buy relating to the subject of earth mysteries. And they subscribe to the concept of Alfred Watkins and the concept I'm just trying to give you here. I'm just going to leave it up here so you can copy down the address for the lake hunter. I'll leave it. John Mitchell book. Oh, I didn't bring it, did I? John Mitchell is A New View Over Atlantis. Yeah, that's a really good one to get.
Your spirit too. Very interesting.
Oh. One of the grand old men of dowsing, Gordon McLean. Most of what Gordon has put out is really worth getting and going over. Not too many of the concepts that he puts out have changed in dowsing science today. It's really some good basic stuff. A Field Guide to Dowsing by Gordon McLean. You can get it through the ASP Book and Supply. A couple other books. One I got in Toronto recently is The World's Biggest Bookstore. It's the most basic of all of the books for what we're doing and some of the things for Earth Mysteries. Is Nigel Pennock's The Ancient Science of Geomancy, Earth Placement, Environmental Placement. This is like the basic one to get. That's about $18. Another one by John Michel, The Earth Spirit, shows the serpent mounds in Ohio. And the serpent mounds are also the only other serpent mounds that are known are outside of Peterborough that we visited last year. And there seems to be, American Society of Dows this out, there seems to be a lot of geomantic deliberate placement of this.
What's that one called?
The Earth Spirit by John Michel. Published there, you can see it when you come up.
Is there a place to get a copy of Physical Psychic?
Physical Psychic.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
That was done on dowsing in 1946, and it was supposed to be the Bible at the time.
I don't know. Well, some of the books on dowsing I get through gentlemen that photocopies them. You know, like Henry Bronson, The Divining Rod should be like the first book you ever buy because it's a good collector's item. And a lot of them now just have to be photocopied. I met a man in Toronto who's photocopying them and binding them. Anyway, have I covered anything? Well, now, these energy lines, Robert Humphrey of Kentucky, Virginia, has, if no one objects, he has agreed to be the science advisor for the Canadian Society of Dowsers. He uses an instrument similar to this with a fast neutron probe. And the probe appears to have picked up the edge of these energy lines that we're talking about. Just you can pick up with your body a lot easier than these lousy machines. Machines are, a human might be able to pick up 100 different levels, and each machine has to be built to pick up usually one individual level. And they're very clumsy whenever you get involved with machines and dowsing, or machines in the environment. You have to go around and spend time with these darn things. But fast neutron probe might be able to verify anything we find out there today. Just to give you an idea that there's a little bit of science catching up with what we're doing. I also have some dowsing rods I'm going to put in the back of my car. I'll just leave the trunk open. Some of you that want to try these instruments, just take them out of the trunk and throw them back in before we leave. Either you're walking along like this, and you have them in a traction position, you get smashed in the face, or they all fly down too quickly. You'll be sorry.
You kept that pretty clean.
Yeah, I tried, so I knew you were here. Anyway, I showed some slides last year on an Indian dig up around Barrie. How many of you have been past Barrie, that big tower, the TV tower, you come into Barrie? Airplane crashed into it a few years ago and blew up. It's right around the base of the tower is where this dig was. And I thought I can't think of any better way of introducing you to the subject than maybe showing you a few of these slides. Most of you haven't seen them. On a Huron village and how they had, maybe the geomancy of the site, how they had set up their site. Because then you might be able to read some of this into the site we're going to. If I can figure out how to do this. If I bring that down a bit, you can't see it there?
Go up a little more. Down here.
Good.
That's too low?
No.
I don't have to take my sign down? Maybe I'll have to take these stage lights. That good enough? Okay, I was sent to meet some archaeologists who were working on the site up in Barrie, and I was supposed to have somebody there. I was supposed to meet them, like sponsor me up, introduce you and stuff like this. You wonder what they think of me, these strangers. And they had been working on the site for about 3 months. This is kind of what I saw. It was a Huron site, and the Hurons were agriculturists. They didn't hunt and trap very much because a lot of the animals were trapped out of this part of Ontario. They raised corn, squash, and beans, the 3 sisters. They also were heavy into the belief of animism. Everything has a spirit. A rock has a spirit, a tree, the water, and whatever. This is kind of an overview of what my reality of what I picked up at that site, along with the archaeologists. To me, there's a couple energy lines going on this side of the village, let's say the south of the village, or an overground charge, crossing here, coming down, and then you have the stream. And until the day that I went out there, they found 5 longhouses, but they couldn't find the end of the longhouse here. What they usually claim is that they're very upset as archaeologists because it looks like somebody took a salt shaker, sprinkled these longhouses on the ground, and they're all kind of randomly all over the place. Not as neatly as I've drawn them on there. And this upsets some of them. They feel there's no human thought maybe behind it. Well, I think Dowsers could prove is that there's full of human thought behind it. So I met these guys, and they're sifting through the mud that afternoon. Kind of introduced myself, and they didn't throw any mud at me. And practically in Ontario, all this area of Ontario, from here to Toronto, if you were to run a plow through the soil, you would find an artifact every time you plow. Every year you plow. Because the people have been here for 10,000 years. There was the pottery, ancient wristwatch. And this was a longhouse. I should think there would have been some longhouses up in the petroglyphs area. And these drinking straws show the outer boundary of the longhouse. These were pits for the 3 sisters for burying the squash and whatnot. You can see the post. This is how we discovered the post, using a shining, doing a shovel. Now the strange thing here is that a culture at this point could easily have made a straight line, a perfectly straight line. But they chose to have the walls of the unit, they went like this. And what I did is I let the archaeologists with the dowsing rods walk into it. Because anything I do has no credibility. So what you do is you give out the rods, let other people do the dowsing, settle just like a lot of Dowsers are doing today. It's trying to move people off of multiple crossing points. Maybe they did something that we are just rediscovering. Some veins did run through the dwelling, and there tended to be storage pits where they were running. I imagine they would have people sleeping in the, like these tiered bunks away from there. And this is what we've got. Here's the water veins. Here's the cross veins with pit, and the hearth. The hearth would show up as a black stain in the ground. And to me, it looks like there was a heck of a lot of thought that went into building one of these. And when the longhouse got longer, they would knock out the end wall and kind of march it down to me just before the next water main. Plug it in, and then build the sidewalls back. So some of these got to be 150 or 200 feet long. This is a pit that would have had contained vegetables and whatnot. This possibly was a unit that burned down or was blown over, because they've got the double posts. It looks like it was rebuilt, perhaps. You can just see how the different buildings were. Some of the, every time you do a sifting, there's artifacts. This was a small hut. It was seen to be built around the same principles as the large buildings. They think it might be a menstrual hut, so that when women were bleeding or they got disgusting, they were sent away to eat by themselves. They were not allowed to eat with the rest of the family or the men until they finished. And apparently this was indicative of many of the Huron culture right up into this area. This is the type of thing, there are probably thousands of these in the park if you were allowed to dig. Each woman that would be making the pottery had a different signature. So you have one that's kind of a comb to the right, comb to the left, imprint and different things like this. The implication from the archaeologists was that nobody can recreate the type of pottery. They'll try to, they'll bury it, a year later, you can't find it. And this stuff has been in the ground for hundreds of years. Somehow they were able to fire it and bind it in such a way as to make it last hundreds of years. And I still never met anyone that knows how to duplicate it. They have said that the seashell they're finding in the central core material here of the binder is from the Gulf of Mexico. Because the nations up here were great trading nations with the Indians to the south and to the north. So here we're just walking into the edge of the vein. We both got the reaction. Here's another guy getting a reaction over here. And at one point we found a garbage dump, a midden, and thousands of these artifacts there. They're just broken up, what do you call it, vases, pottery. So what they did was, because there's a pressure on them to hurry up with this project, because a shopping mall wants to be plugged down on top of the village, they brought in a bulldozer. And looked at some of the energy, or some of the patterns from the water in the area, and started pulling back the ground and started doing the shining. And you can see, just in the first 20 minutes here, we can start to pick up the patterns. See the post? I don't know if you can see them there. Here's this script that we did in winter, and then this was about a month later from the first picture. Look at all the activity and all the stuff that was going on there when we found it. And they'll never have a chance to unravel the secrets of what's really going on there because of money and private interest. This was really weird. It almost looked like two buildings, maybe at separate times, that almost come in touch, art or sweat lodge. Or was this a very special ceremonial building? Every one of these darn stakes and McDonald's drinking straws has to be cataloged, numbered, and it takes another 3 years to try and draw the pictures out of what they mean. And it's very tedious work. Some of the stuff they find, I think this might be a French trading knife, which would put it at about 1630, that area, because after that point, about 10 years later, some of the Iroquois tribes from New York State came up. They were given a slightly more advanced technology by Dutch traders in how to kill. And then they wiped out all of the Huron nation. This looks like it might be a pipe for smoking. You put a straw inside, fire it up. The straw would burn, and then you have a smoking pipe. Tobacco was used by this group of Indians. This looks like it might have been a pipe. It may have had the four heads of the shaman on it. See it a little bit right here. Or maybe your fellow Dowsers. What I was asking the men to do when they're cataloging stuff, we sometimes find these little concentrations of crystal rock. I just asked them if they could see if there's any pattern to it. Because normally when they're digging, they just throw them over their shoulders. And I'm wondering if, as this particular type of rock was used to suppress things, or if it had some meaning. This was just a gentleman was brought in that can take impressions. There's a special word for that? Psychometry. He can take a rock and read things into it. Anyway, I asked him to go out here, but I didn't say a thing to him. So I just asked him to go out here in the field where I felt there was a crossing point, 2 energy lines, and give me his impression. I just walked him out there. I didn't say why we were there. And he said he felt it was a meeting place, a meeting point, and that when he looked at the field, he said out here, about 200 feet, there was a rock that people sat on it, and they meditated on it. And I walked him in such a way that he couldn't see the rocks. I didn't want him to know anything. I didn't want him to hear my voice. But this was the rock that one lady was here today, wants to bring a bulldozer in and grab it. And you can't blame her. I don't know. This could be a rock that would have been used on the energy line for meditation. Because when you put people on things like this, sometimes where normally they start to meditate and they're about, the energy might just be about 18 inches out. They start out about 2 feet or more, and then they expand. After 10 minutes, you walk towards them with a dowsing lamp, and all you do is get a barrier of reflection. Where's the rock? Up towards the PD tower. Buried. Buried.
There's another power.
It's, I got some unusual readings of my machine.
Especially on the side where you have your foot.
All these things may be part and parcel of ceremony. There was quite a few festivals and ceremonies for kind of what we celebrate, equinox and solstice and other things. This was a green corn ceremony that was a big deal around November every year. And we think that maybe that where these energies crossed, maybe they did use it for ceremony. I mean, it's all conjecture, right? Just an overview on the side. What I'm suggesting is, one might show the first slide of perhaps an energy line here, and water down here. What I'm suggesting is that perhaps this was felt to be a protecting spirit, so to speak, for the village. The village is kind of cuddled by these three energies, and you have the longhouses also kind of being cuddled and protected by this other energy or spirit, or whatever they want to call it. I'm suggesting that an awful lot of thought and planning has gone into a municipal project like this. This was a stream down not too far away. Walk in, arousing reaction. See if you get one today. Walking along the round hill. It's like going through a door. Open, close. Really rapidly. Walked down a little further and we found a tree that was that seemed to have a dome underneath it.
Excuse me, Bob, what are you asking for when you walk along and the rods open and close?
Well, I leave myself open. I deliberately leave myself open because when I'm water dowsing, although my technique is totally different than a lot of the other dowsers, but I leave myself open, so if I'm looking for a vein of water that might be good, and usable for a home like that. I also don't mind if the rods are going to start telling me I'm over metal or plastic or something else. Okay, so I'm going along, I find a good vein of water here, but I'll all of a sudden, wham, the rods are together, they're locked. I'm over a hell of a lot of metal. So what I want to do is not tell somebody about, I don't want the homeowner to know about that vein. I want to keep them as far away from that vein as possible. Because they'll suck an old iron vein or something into the well, or magnesium. So I'll leave myself open to 4 reactions for water, metal, plastic, or maybe an energy line. And then try to move a house around the property until it's in something that is much harmony as we can possibly get. Given that some people only have an acre, and that we have to put the septic tank here. You know,
So you're asking in general to be in a dowsing response for...
I'm just leaving myself open anyway. Now, you would completely block it out if you choose to. If you decide, I will only find a Bell telephone man outside my office, bang, Bell telephone wires. You ask him if he can find water, he says never, ever. He can never find water. You can only find Bell telephone wires. He's just gone over the incoming water pipe and the gas pipe. He needs to pick it up. So it's selective dowsing. I like to know everything I can about what's going on the site. I'm suggesting a dome of water. This particular dome of water looked like it was just coming up on a vertical rise, hitting probably a clay barrier and spinning out. It looked like this configuration was underneath a tree. Wind might be able to take you to a dome today. Some people, when they're over domes, they have a rod, and the rod will just start going around. And it won't stop. It won't give you the satisfaction of having downflow in a direction. It just keeps on going. In this case, a whole bunch of trees seem to be trying to grow over the same spot. You can see lightning has hit the tree. And the trees, everything seems to be really messed up on the site. The trees are growing in a way that's being mutated. See the branch coming up, cantilevering, and then you'd think it would go to the light. The branch then grows right to the mother, to the other side. And there's a twist, a spiral to the tree. You see in the winter time, one here, and hardly any branches on this side. Twist. All the roots come in spiral. Twist in. Both the archaeologist and myself got these weird reactions, and then we went back and traced them out, and we felt that we definitely had to go out. Now, what I'm suggesting is this isn't very important for the tree. What I would ask you to take on faith is my particular dowsing reaction using this yes-no technique too that Glenn Gordon talks about. My impression was that it was not a sacred spot, but it was a special spot. And I'm saying this is maybe a new category for you to look at when you're up at the petroglyphs. And I'm suggesting the special spot was perfectly located for giving birth. That it was 2 feet away from the stream, so as soon as the baby boy is born, he has to be plunged in the cold water. And not only that, but if a woman is heard screaming while she's giving birth, she's pretty well disgraced herself for the rest of her life. She might as well leave that group. So this area, which I think the animals will quite often, cloven hoof animals, will give birth over a dome or a blind spring. And I believe that they would have studied animals, they would have studied the environment, and they probably very well could have used this as a birthing spot. Near water, about 200 feet away from the village, so nobody's going to hear you screaming. It would have been a perfect spot. This is strictly my dowsing reaction. You might get something different.
Back to the other question. So if you're walking along and you're not focusing on anything at all, you're still going to get a reaction? Like if you're just walking with...
You could open yourself up to reactions. You might be getting one of 4 reactions, 4 basic reactions.
That's where the energy of thought comes into it, and focusing on a certain level of concentration or whatever, right?
I think when you're walking over a site too, a lot of it is more physical dowsing, level 1 dowsing.
Oh yeah.
I believe it does involve a lot more than physical, because we can use physical instruments to start to pick up some of the things the dowsers do. As soon as you get into a level 2 dowse, I think you might as well forget Mr. Scientist and all the other people. Andrew?
I live right here at the National Library in Ottawa, and one of the attributes of the library is the pocket traffic section. And I have one and in Mexico, where I realized that 3 major sites were aligned. Monte Alta, Oaxaca, Oaxaca, which is the capital of the Aztecs, and Tula, which is another civilization. And they all went perfectly fine. I checked them out, and they really were. They literally, to a few meters, were all perfectly. That's before satellite imagery came around. Now, what struck me that there are 3 different civilizations several hundred years apart from each other. I checked into that line and wanted to know what were the perpendiculars of these, and that came to a grid pattern which found other known and then eventually what became known sites. And I found that the entire groups of every site in Yucatan, which is a different area completely, also fell the same grid, that is, the same distances between the proportions. And what is interesting is in your exposition is that where you have the 2 lines in the race, something was done. You see that there is a desire to cap it, as it were, and which is the characteristic of all these structures in Mexico area. I checked, by the way, later on the line that goes to the 3 places in Mexico, Monte Alba and so on. It goes down to China and goes to connect 3 major scenic mountains. One is in Korea, and then there's one near Xi'an in China, and there's one which is north of Chongqing. So you can see that there's a worldwide grid which was quite consciously taken by different civilizations as being important for whatever purpose.
Might be good at that. One final thing, just to finish up, and thank you. I really think this is important. How to approach the site. When I was in England, I grew up in England. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie St. Trinian's College. All these screaming girls that are on a school bus, and you see all the arms of the lights off, and the girls are criminals. And it reminded me of the group that I was with, this criminal group of girls, because they would all take their dowsing rods and go, ah! And they'd run off the bus, right? And they go over and look, you're evil. And they would be doing all these things. And what they should do is they throw the garbage away, throw the toys away, and you walk over to the site once, and then you walk over to the site again. So you're walking it, you know there's a woodchuck hole over here, you're going to have to step over a log, and I think this is the way a shaman would have approached the new sites for the villages, because they rebuilt the village every 10 years. And you walk it, and you just relax and get yourself out of this high beta thinking, because every one of you will get garbage. In fact, you had 38 people, you had 38 different people getting 38 different things. In Danville, the second day of the dowsing school, we take everybody and we have them listen, use sound when you're dowsing. So you walk the site a couple of times, relax, get over the novelty of it, that building and all the people. Once the novelty's over, start using sounds outside. And you will hear sounds of leaves moving, brushing against each other. You'll hear sounds of a little bit of wind in the grass. Use that to instantly get into this alpha state. Or if there's somebody running a lawnmower next door, use the lawnmower. Or an airplane overhead. Let that go through your head and stop thinking. And then walk the site with your dowsing rod. And even if you do it in a line, all of you will start to get exactly the same thing. You get something that's called accuracy. And this is what we usually do the second day of the dowsing school. We go for accuracy. And it really gives these people a lift to have everybody, after the first day of confusion, starting to get something to mean. So think about how you want to approach the site, like either the St. Trinian's method or a little walking, getting used to it, and then bring out your instruments, and you'll find that you start picking up the same thing. Time for lunch.
How are you? Good, yourself. You've been taking lectures?
Yeah. Well, first one I did is get walking back from
I was wondering if it's possible to get copies of tape.
Frisbee joke made up of the spur of the moment.
I may have one card.